Hello! So today started so well, I answered the door to some Jehovah's Witnesses naked. All of my links are in the doobly-doo. Hi. That's a smart way to deal with it, isn't it? I want to give a disclaimer, I don't normally do these, but this is based on my own opinion, my own concerns as a fan of Lord of the Rings, and opinion is completely subjective. What am I going to start with this? I am worried about this Amazon Lord of the Rings thing. It's got the budget, it's got the certain people involved, which I'm very happy about. I'm disappointed Peter Jackson isn't involved, but I understand why he isn't. And after the Hobbit movies, I'd rather Guillermo del Toro was involved, but that's a whole different discussion. I am concerned about some of the writers. They've got rumoured writers. I cannot, because, you can't base things on, Twitter conversations, even if you dislike that person. And I am concerned about it, partly because I have a fear they're going to woke wash it. And woke washing is a very simple thing where instead of being about Lord of the Rings, it's about commentary on society or about inequality or something, rather than just being Lord of the Rings. My also other concerns is that it's set in the Second Age and there isn't a huge amount of stuff written about the Second Age of Lord of the Rings. And what we do have is fragmented. I mean, I always said this, The Hobbit should have been made when they made The Lord of the Rings as a standalone movie, and they should have done the Silmarillion as the Silmarillion. I have problems saying that word, because that is the prequel, but there isn't a huge amount. My other concern, now with what's happened to Christopher Tolkien, we're going to end up with... He was very good at controlling what happened, and I'm worried it's just going to be a Lord of the Rings free-for-all, and Amazon are going to milk it to death and destroy it. The misconception that Tolkien is a racist based on some article by a journalist who is really just some SJW who wanted some clout on the internet, and which I cannot stand her. I'm not going to name her because she causes problems with videos where you mention her name. If you know who I'm talking about, you know who I'm talking about. If you don't, you might need to Google it, because I don't want to deal with drama. On the other side of it, Tolkien went out of his way to disprove the Nazis. Just putting that one into the mix, because that's a little bit of history that most people don't know, disprove Nazi theology, which is fascinating into itself. I worry that this Lord of the Rings series is literally just going to be what they seem to be doing about everything. It's going to be about this, it's going to be about that, it's going to incorporate elements of this and that. And I'm like, no, we don't need social justice. Not everything needs representation. Not everything needs social justice topics. Not everything needs to be about inequality or feminism or whatever. It just needs to be Lord of the fucking Rings. It needs to be Tolkien's work. It's a fantasy world. Though there is politics in it, it's based on, because by nature fantasy is political, but it's based on mythology, ethereal legend, Roman Greek mythology chucked in for good measure, British Isles mythology. There's a lot of it, a lot of fairy stories and folk tales that get incorporated in, and it would be lovely if they brought those to the forefront. I also worry, because I keep hearing this thing where they want a Game of Thrones style thing, or a Witcher style thing, and I love The Witcher. That's one of my favourite things ever. And I love Game of Thrones. The Song of Ice and Fire are spectacular novels. They're not Lord of the Rings, they're fundamentally different. Lord of the Rings was the one that set the benchmark for high fantasy. The Witcher has nothing in common with Lord of the Rings. It probably owes itself more to the Conan books. And Game of Thrones is more a political family drama set against a fantasy background. And you could easily transplant Game of Thrones into... Game of Thrones set against there, into a modern world, into any world, and the storylines would still work. Where Lord of the Rings is very much in that bubble. They're my concerns, they're my worries about it as a fan. I also worry that they're going to just rip it apart and milk it. Like I said, another spin-off, a prequel, another spin-off. We're retconning things. That's another thing that worries me. We're changing this because it's not woke, or we're doing this and we're doing that, and it's like, please stop it. Just adapt what you have. Create a story that feels like Tolkien's work. Look at the Lord of the Rings movies. Use those as an example of Lord of the Rings and use those as an example for the adaptation, not The Hobbit. Look at that. Bring in new elements, but keep them in fitting with Tolkien. It's not that hard. That's why I'm worried. That's why I love Lord of the Rings. And my concern is it's going to end up getting destroyed and ripped apart, or becoming a series that doesn't really matter, like Star Trek Discovery. Effectively, it didn't happen, so a pointless exploit and wasted money. So I know I'm going to get heat for this, but tell me what you think in the comments below, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.